Hey everyone, and welcome back. I spent the last few days working on adding some features to Ticker, and I wanted to share my progress so far. I ended up grabbing four features off of my Trello board and just started implementing them, and then I thought now's a good time to take a break and create a video and update you guys on how I'm doing. Bear with me a little bit here. I've got a new recording setup going. I've got a camera, screen recorder going, using the audio with my mic on my computer. So just trying to figure that out. Hey, we'll see how it goes. Thanks. So let's see what I did. Oh, before I get into that, I do want to bring up something really interesting that I figured out while I was working on my stuff this week. I found it a lot easier to add on in V2 of this project than it was to implement the features for V1, which the more I thought about it, the more duh it was, but it was a really interesting thing to really discover through doing it. So I'll kind of show you what I mean about some of these features when I get to them. Okay, now let's get to it. So I think first, let's just look at the Trello board here, and I kind of left them all. These are all done, minus maybe a bug or two there, but they're all done here. So I did a capture an image instead of just using the existing photos on your device. The manually adding activities for a previous day, because currently you can add activities but they just line up on the day that it is. So even if you forgot your activity for yesterday, you couldn't go back and add the activity to be on yesterday. You just added it and it was today. Then I added starting in an activity with some time on it. So say you go start an activity, but 10 minutes has passed and you're like, dang it, I forgot to start my ticker. So that you can just go in, start the ticker and say, hey, I started this 10 minutes ago, start my timer from 10 minutes and go from here. And then finally, probably the thing my wife wanted me to add the most is a quick summary of the day's goals and the times and the time that had been accumulated across all activities for that goal for that day. So you can just look at it at the top and bam, there's your total. So I decided to start with capturing an image. I knew in other apps like, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you can add an image to your posts. And on those, and when you go to select it, there's you see your grid, and then there's also one of the grid items is like a photo or a capture icon. So that was kind of my first thought. But as I dove into it, I realized I would need to pull in a lot more UI kit stuff to do that, and I just didn't want to. So for this, I kind of split it into up front, the user's going to select, do I want to pick an image from my library or capture an image? That simplified things for me quite a bit. So I went with that approach, and then I knew I just had to add the buttons for select an image and capture an image in both of those spots where the image selection is currently in the app. So I went and I did that for those spots, and that is, let's see where those are. So we have the start activity. No, it's going to be on the save activity. So here we have an image, and let me just pull up the simulator here for this. Okay, so let's see. As I said before, it's on the manual save of an activity, the save of the timed activity, and on edit an activity. So here in the, let's just start with, and you'll see some other features here that I also implemented here, but we'll just skip over those for now. So here's, like I said, you can pick an image from your library or capture an image. So this looks exactly the same. I'll do a walkthrough on my phone later with all the features. So we'll kind of show you how that all works. There are too many places that I'm recording. I messed up. And then I derailed for about a half hour. And now we're back. Okay, so I had just gone over that you can capture an image or select an image from your library while you are creating a manual activity. Now, let's just say we are doing a cool thing. That is cool. Start it. And now I also said you can select an image or now capture an image when you save the activity. So you have that option here. So let's go ahead and save. And finally, on edit. There it is right there. Okay, so that takes care of my second idea for how I wanted to deliver this feature. But as I was doing it, I thought more about it, and I realized that doesn't really improve the usability of this app or really make sense. If you are doing an activity that you want to record an image for, it's likely that you want to capture that image while you're doing the activity. So that's what I decided to do. Let them add an image while the activity was going. We're going to do that on my phone that actually has a camera. So here on my phone now, I can start an activity. We'll call it bedtime yoga because I have different goals over here on this phone. And we'll say start. Now, you may have seen this earlier, but there is a camera icon here that I can use to capture an image. Now let's say I want to show Goofy doing some bedtime yoga to show he did the yoga. Take a nice image here, capture, use photo, and bam, there it is. And say you didn't like it, delete. Go ahead and do another one. There we go. That looks better. And now I can save that. It's in here. Save. And I captured an image while recording the activity and was able to save that later. I'd say that is capture image when saving an activity as complete. But I'm not done talking about it. Because I mentioned earlier that I was shocked to find how much easier it was to implement these features for version 2 versus version 1. And that I found it's because I keep in my head wanting to say skip boilerplate, but it's not boilerplate, it's the base function of my app. I already can save an activity. I'm just changing how I'm going to save that activity very slightly. I'm even adding an image to an activity. I'm just changing that. I'm not pulling it from the only thing I had to implement was where that image was coming from. So here I only had to create this view. I'm using a SwiftUI image picker and selecting an image. The magic that made it so much easier was once I pulled that image, I'm just setting it to the state variable that I was using to save the selected image. So I didn't have to, once the image is selected, all of that code is the same below it. I didn't have to edit my save function at all for this. And that just made things so much easier. I didn't have to figure out how to save an image. I didn't have to figure out how to save it to the file directory and then save the path. It's just, I already had all of the image save functionality done. I just wanted to be able to capture an image. So I find adding features is so much easier, especially when they're supplemental changes like this is, instead of adding completely new functionality. But with that, I will move on to my next feature that I added. And that is, when you're doing the manual add, you can set it on a previous day. This kind of falls into that same path of it being easier this time around, because you can already add an activity manually. But when you add that activities already have a day set to them. It's just when you add a manual activity, it's currently just setting it to that day that it is. So it's doing like a date.now as set the activity day. So all I had to do was, one, give the user an input to select the day that it was done, and two, save that day as the activity date instead of date.now. Piece of cake. And that is done here in add manual, select date. We'll call it, that's a bug, yesterday's cool thing. I don't know why that didn't clear out. That's not, I don't think I've seen that before. Or maybe I just didn't close it. But it was an hour that I did yesterday's cool thing. Save. You don't see it here, but bam, there it is, yesterday. So awesome. And again, I didn't have to really change, I guess I did change my save. No, I didn't have to change my save function. I was saving the day that was selected instead of just date.now. Piece of cake. So that completes manual add activity for a previous day. Ooh, I think when I did that, I believe I did do previous only, so you can't go and set things, can't set things into the future. Cool. I have some good ideas in the moment. Okay, so next, fairly similarly, this is starting an activity with some time. So this use case is, you start your activity, you're enjoying it, and you accidentally forget to start your ticker. But then you realize 10 minutes later, I forgot. So now I just want to go start it with my timer at 10 minutes. And that can be done simply now by saying late cool thing. Cool. I started this 10 minutes ago. Start. And your timer starts at 10 minutes. And then when you save, if we go to today, you're at 10 minutes. Cool. And again, this is just like the previous one. The form is still there. I just added a new input. The timer is still there. I just started it from a specified number instead of 0. And bam, done. And everything else worked just fine down from there. And so that is that done. And then finally we get to the daily totals. This is this little feature right here. So this little card is a summary of everything that has been done today for this goal. and you'll see that that is for my Cool Tucker goal. It's a 10 minutes and a 0 minutes for a 10-minute total. Now if I go here, edit, this was actually an hour. Save, back, hour and 10 minutes. Cool. And if I add another activity for something else, let's call this a swirly, for an hour, I have, oh, I already started, yeah, that's right, I forget, that started so long ago has been clutch for testing stuff out. Save that, and now we have Cool Ticker and play for an hour. Okay, and now if I add one more for a different goal, yeah, I don't need to do that. Start. It's just a quick one. And save. There we go. And you'll see that this does scroll now. And it is collapsible, which I think is nice. If you don't care about it right now. And you can see that this is here for this over here too. So I call this done for now. I'm not sure I love how it looks, but the functionality is there, so I'm pretty happy with it. And honestly, that kind of wraps up everything that I did this week for Ticker. There was one more thing that I really noticed while I was working on the new features for Ticker this week. The thing that slowed me down the most wasn't the code. As I mentioned earlier, it was mostly pretty easy. But what really got in my way was coming up with, or what really slowed me down was turning those feature requests into a design and a plan. And more specifically, second guessing myself on those designs and plans. I would come up with a plan and then just tell myself, that's not gonna look good, or that won't work, instead of just coming up with a plan, jumping into the code, and implementing something. I may find that that does in fact look bad or doesn't work very well, but from there I can just start iterating on it, and that quickly turns into the finished product. So instead of just second guessing myself, if I would have just jumped in and started doing it, I would have been done a lot quicker. I'm hoping that I remember that in the future, and I'll try to get myself to remember that so I can move faster. I think as a developer, I think one of my bigger weaknesses is I'm just a little bit slow at it. And I think a lot of that is just getting in my head about doing it the correct way instead of starting it and figuring out the correct way as I go. Yeah. We'll see. It's a growing process. Now, I only implemented 4 features. Actually, there was a sneaky one that I threw in there too. In V1, the description is required, and my wife found that too annoying, so I got rid of that. But I only implemented a handful of features this week, or the past couple weeks, but I'm okay with that. I'm seeing progress in it, and honestly, I think these changes make a world of difference to Ticker. So I'm fired up to keep adding to it. If you have any feedback or questions, let me know for sure. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. But yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.